Alright, 4.5. 4.5 is systems of linear inequalities. And so what they're going to do is they're going to give you a system, just like we've been dealing with, but instead of an equal sign, you will see an unequal sign, or an inequality. So this is an example of a system of inequalities, and they're still linear. There's no exponents, no radicals, no x or y's in the denominator. So they're your basic simple equations, but now they're inequalities instead of equations. And the way that we solve these is because there are infinite things, there are infinite x's you can put in and multiply by 2 that will be less than y. We solve these. The system will say solve, and it will tell you to solve by graphing. And that's how we show all the millions of xy coordinates that would solve this equation. So to graph, I like it in y equals mx plus b form, and so we can do that even though it's an inequality. So I will just subtract x from both sides in this second equation. And in my first equation, I've already got y alone, so I'll just write it down here by this one. Now notice that the arrow is open to the y, so I'm going to keep the arrow open to the y. And so I'm not changing my inequality. My inequality still points to the 2x, still pointing to the 2x. But now it's in my y equals mx plus b, my point slope form, my intercept form. So to graph that, we'll make a Cartesian plane with an xy axis and just graph them. So the first one, this is review. We know it crosses the y-axis at 4, the y-intercept. And we know that the slope is down 1, right 1. So I'm going to go down 1, right 1. And this is super important. Remember that if it's not equal to the line, you have to draw it dotted. And try to draw it straight. Mine's a little pitiful. Alright, now let's try our second equation. Our second equation doesn't have anything here. It doesn't have a b, which means it's plus 0. So it's crossing the y-axis at 0. But its slope is up to, and remember, if there's nothing underneath it, it's a 1. So I'm going to go up to over 1. And this one says it's greater than or equal to the line. So this one is a solid line. Now, because it's an inequality, the answer is not the lines itself. And like before, the answer was where they intersected. Well, now it's the whole area greater than those two lines. So we have to shade. My first line, my dotted line, if I need to know where to shade, it says that y is greater than the line. So I'm guessing it's this side over here. It looks like the greater side. But if you're ever not sure, you just remember you test a point. And the easiest point is 0, 0. So I will put 0, 0. So I'm putting that point in that equation. So I get 0 is greater than, and the x is 0, so I have 4. And I know that that is not true. So that means 0, 0 is not shaded. So we were right. We're going to shade this side. Now I'm just going to write it with arrows because my final answer is just the overlap. They're implying and here. So remember to shade the overlap only. So let's do our next line. So my next line, my solid line, 2x, that one, unfortunately, I can't use 0, 0 because it's on the actual line. So I'll just pick another point that's easy. Maybe I'll pick this one, which is over 1, up 0. And I'll plug it in for x and y. So the y value is 0, and the x value is 1. So I'm going to plug that 1 and that 0 in, and that gives me 0 is greater than or equal to 2. Once again, that is not true. That is false. So I know that 1, 0 is not shaded. So it's this side that we're shading. So looking at where your arrows have pointed, can you see the overlap? The answer is just the overlap. So it would be this little top triangle right there. And that's all you would see on a multiple choice test. If you were to pick the answer, that would be it. Alright, let's try one more. How about this one? We'll do a big one with 3 equations. So I have negative x plus y is less than 3. I have y is less than or equal to 1. And I have 2x plus y is greater than negative 2. So, once again, to graph these, I'm going to put them in mx plus b form. So I'm going to solve for y. And remember that you only have to flip the arrow if you multiply or divide by a negative. So right here, I'm going to add x to both sides. So that's not multiplying or dividing. And then I'll just copy the middle equation down without changing it. And then right here, to get this y alone, we need to subtract 2x from both sides. So again, that won't flip my arrow, and I have negative 2x now minus 2. So those are my 3 equations in mx plus b form, so they're easy to graph. And let's write our Cartesian plane, and we know this is our x-axis and this is our y-axis, and go ahead and graph. Good review here. So to graph this, we know the y-intercept is 3, so I'm going to go to 3 and draw my first 1 over 1. So up 1, over 1. And again, this is not equal to the line, so it's dotted. So I'm going to draw my dotted line through those 2 points. And let's figure out which side to shade as we go. So let's imagine 0, 0 right here. And if I plug 0, 0 in right there, I get 0 is less than 3, don't I? Now it's true. That's correct. 0 is less than 3. And sometimes you can do it intuitively, because if you look at this, it's saying that y is less than the line. So, isn't it? And we're just going to tell ourselves, because our answer will be the overlap again. Alright, now when you only see y or you only see x, you know you're talking about horizontal or vertical. And hopefully you remember that if you see y equals, it crosses the y-axis. And this one's crossing the y-axis at 1. And this one is equal to, so it's solid. So right here at 1, I'll just intersect the y-axis with a horizontal line. And these are really obvious. If it says that it's less than 1, you know you shade below. And you can still try a point to verify, but they're pretty easy. Alright, so now I have below this and below this. So it looks like we're just talking about this right now, but I have a third line to do. So this one has a y-intercept of negative 2, and it has a slope of negative 2. So I will go down to right 1. Again, this is not equal to, so we're going to draw it dotted. I'm guessing it's up here, but let's just verify with 0, 0. So plugging 0 in for x and 0 in for y, so plugging 0 in right there and there, I get 0 is greater than, negative 2. And that is true, so we know we're going to shade 0, 0. So here's my line, 0, 0 is on this side. So we're shading that side. Alright, now think, you're below this, and you're above this. So this will be our solution. And that's all. You should shade on your homework, and on a multiple choice test, that would be the answer you would pick. Be really careful about dotted versus solid lines. Be really careful that you only shade the overlap. And not too bad of an assignment. So enjoy this one. Good job, you guys.